You're about to see a name repeated 50-some times next to a list of the dead. It's been read out loud inside the United States Congress. It's been reposted every year for 3 decades. And in 30 years, not one government investigation has ever confirmed a single name on it. So who actually made this, and why won't it die? On a summer afternoon in 1994, a little-known congressman stood up on the floor of the U.S. House of Representatives and read a list of names into the official record. Dozens of people, he said, connected to Bill and Hillary Clinton, all dead under circumstances he called suspicious. The list didn't originate with him. A year earlier, in 1993, an activist named Linda Thompson had compiled it herself and given it a title: The Clinton Body Count, Coincidence or the Kiss of Death. No law enforcement background. No access to a single case file. Just 24 names and an implication. What Congressman William Dannemeyer did in 1994 was read Thompson's list, unverified, uninvestigated, into the official Congressional Record. That single act is what gave a homemade flyer the appearance of legitimacy it never actually earned. Here's the detail almost nobody repeats when they share this list today. Thompson herself later admitted, on the record, that she had no direct evidence tying the Clintons to a single one of those deaths. And here's one they definitely don't repeat. On that same page of that same Congressional Record, another representative, Andrew Jacobs Jr., inserted his own entry right alongside it. An article mocking the entire theory, titled whatever it is, Bill Clinton probably did it. So if Congress itself was laughing at this on day one, how did it survive the next 30 years? The list didn't stay frozen at 24 names. Every few years, it absorbs a new death, sometimes someone with almost no real connection to the Clintons at all, just proximity in the news cycle. But 2 names anchor almost every version of this list, then and now. Let's look at exactly what happened to each one. The first is Vince Foster, a White House deputy counsel and a friend of the Clintons since their days in Arkansas. In July 1993, Foster was found dead in a park outside Washington, D.C. The list treats his death as one of its founding cases, proof, supposedly, that the Clintons had something to hide. Here's where legitimate doubt actually gets into this case. 2 days after Foster's death, White House counsel Bernard Nussbaum searched his office and found a file on a separate controversy that had reportedly been troubling Foster: the White House Travel Office affair. When FBI agents came back to interview him 8 days later, Nussbaum told them he knew of no relevant papers. That file didn't reach investigators for more than a year. Nussbaum has called any suggestion he hid something preposterous. Separately, in that same briefcase, a torn note in Foster's own handwriting surfaced 4 days after his death, and that one went to the park police within a day. 2 years later, in September 1995, under a new independent counsel, park police closed Fort Marcy Park overnight so agents could search it again. Looking, one park police spokesman said, for a bullet nobody could otherwise account for. That's a real, documented process failure. It's also exactly the detail conspiracy sites have leaned on hardest ever since. What actually happened next? Not one investigation, but 5. 2 separate independent counsels, Robert Fisk, then Kenneth Starr, each ran their own inquiry. So did the FBI. So did congressional committees. Every single one reached the same conclusion. The final federal report doesn't hedge. The OIC agrees with the conclusion reached by every official entity that has examined the issue: suicide. 5 investigations, 1 answer every time. The second name is more recent, and if you were online in August 2019, you remember exactly where this one landed. Jeffrey Epstein, a financier facing federal sex trafficking charges, was found dead in his cell. Within hours, the list had a new entry, and one specific claim was everywhere. The Clintons had him silenced before he could talk. Here's what's actually documented. Bill Clinton did fly on Epstein's plane. That part is real, and it's a matter of public record, not speculation. But the Federal Bureau of Prisons ruled the death an apparent suicide, and fact-checking organizations that dug specifically into the Clinton-Epstein claim, factcheck.org, PolitiFact, found the same thing every time. A real, documented connection between two men, and zero evidence connecting that relationship to how Epstein died. A real connection, not proof of anything else. By now you might be thinking, okay, so it's wrong. Why does that matter? Why doesn't it just go away? Here's the uncomfortable answer. Being wrong has almost nothing to do with whether a claim survives online. Psychologists call one part of this the illusory truth effect. The more times you encounter a claim, even one you know is disputed, the more familiar it feels, and familiarity gets mistaken for truth. Add confirmation bias. Once someone's decided to believe it, every new coincidence confirms it, and every correction gets waved off as part of the cover-up. Add the structure of social media itself, which tends to hand people more of what they already clicked on, not less. And then there's a number worth sitting with. A person at the level of a U.S. president accumulates a professional and personal network in the tens of thousands over a multi-decade career. At that scale, some number of those people will die of natural causes, accidents, unrelated crimes every year with no conspiracy required. The list isn't tracking a pattern, it's tracking coincidence and calling it one. That's the part almost never included in the repost. The list is still out there today. New names get added within hours of any death that has even a distant Clinton connection. Kate Spade, Anthony Bourdain, Kobe Bryant have all been pulled into versions of it, with no documented link to how any of them actually died. Political figures on both sides have reshared it at convenient moments for 30 years running. Not one version has ever survived a serious fact check intact. So here's the question actually worth asking. Not is the list true, because 5 federal investigations and 3 decades of fact checks already answered that. The real question is, what's something you've personally shared or believed for years that you've genuinely never gone back and checked? If you want to see where that story led for these 2 men specifically, we've broken down both investigations in a short below. And if there's another claim like this one you want us to trace back to its source, the same way one of you asked us to trace this one, tell us in the comments. We post a new investigation like this every week, cold cases, and now, the stories behind the myths people share about them. If you're new here, subscribe so you don't miss the next one.